All right, Coach, report day. I'm not sure what is the protocol on a day like today? Is it just get everybody checked in, figure out who's here? How does it kind of work?
Well, we're at a real high vaccination rate right now, so we don't have many kids that are not vaccinated. So that's how we start our day off, just make sure we're getting everybody tested that's not vaccinated. And so once we get through that and make sure we're all safe and sound, we'll report. They'll get in here at 3 o'clock, and we'll have compliance for about an hour just for Steve to go over all the rules and make sure they know the rules and what their rights are as players. And then we'll have all the start the year off meetings to make sure we all know, from training staff to weight staff to, I already mentioned, compliance, academics, all the people that touch our kids. We have a chance to meet with our kids. And then we'll have a team meeting, and we'll just go over. We've only got one team rule. Be where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there, doing what you're supposed to do with perfect effort. And that pretty much covers all of it. So we'll get all that done, and we'll get some individual meetings, and then we'll be ready to roll tomorrow.
And then tomorrow, as far as the competition aspect, is everything wide open again? You have so many returners. Are you looking at competition at every position, or are there specific groups? Quarterback in particular, we always got to ask you about, that are all kind of settled and ready to go for this fall camp.
Well, every spot's always open. Obviously, we all know there's certain players that were really good last year, and they've established themselves as starters. But at the same time, if they start slacking and someone else starts doing better than them, which we don't expect that to happen, then obviously there would have to be some reason for a change there. So I know it sounds like coach talk that every spot is open, but I have an All-American kicker and an All-American punter. So am I saying they're not starters on day one? No, I'm not. But I am making sure they understand that they don't play to their level, their standard. We've also recruited other kids to come in there and take their jobs, and they understand that. That's something we have to talk about and be very open and front about. But I had my leadership council over last night, and this is going to be an awkward year because we're going to have to re-vote for leadership council, and everybody's back because of the COVID, and you got super seniors back, so we're re-voting for numbers. And I told them, I'm like, look, I know that's my baby, and that's what I want our program to be about. But if you guys aren't for this, then I don't want to do it, because there's going to be some guys that aren't voted back in. I feel very strongly about that because we've had some other guys step up. And if y'all don't want to go down that road, then let's don't do it. So there's living proof that everything's open because we're fixing to re-vote for leadership council. And you say, well, what's different about that? Usually your older kids move on, right? And your younger kids just step right in. And there's a natural flow of your team. There's not that this year. There's a log jam at the top. How are we going to be able to handle that? That's going to be our whole deal the entire year.
Coach, with all the challenges that you guys had last year that everybody had, but as well as you worked out through the season and it was your first year, does that give you guys more confidence going into this season that things might be a little bit more normal and that you're going to be pretty strong going forward?
I think every coach in the country always answers that question. There's no coach in the country when you meet them this time of year that they don't say that, but I really feel that. It's not coach talk, as I always say. We're more confident. We know our team. It doesn't mean we don't have some areas of weakness that we're going to have to hide, but we also have a lot more strengths than we did last year that we're going to be able to exploit. So, we're very confident, comfortable, but, it's the irony, like moving in this building. It's so exciting. It's so awesome. But I'm sure y'all had to find y'all's way here today, and we're still finding our way around. Like, I go down to Nick and get my blood pressure checked, and I know how to get there. I went the long way. So as long as we've been here, there's just been something that's not allowed us to get like in a real routine. So I'm as excited about now we're in our home that we're going to be able to get into a routine of some normalcy because as football coaches and players, we are very simple creatures.
Jeff, are these first few weeks like an actual camp or guys rooming together? What's the situation these first 2 weeks?
No, I'm not into all that. I never have been. We let them stay in their normal homes, and I'm huge on things that matter to me, what we major in the majors, and I don't minor in very many minors. And to me, that's a minor. Now, I know there are other coaches that feel very different about that. Charlie Strong, I had to stay in the dorm with them. So I've worked for men that do it way different. I just don't feel like that really translate into wins and losses. I know when I was a player, I was more prepared when I slept in my bed and got my routine down and came to work. I was not ever comfortable in a dorm once I had lived off campus and had to come back. So that just that's never made a lot of sense to me.
And looking at last year, obviously the Don't Eat the Cheese was such a big rallying cry for you guys. How have you noticed some of the guys, like the leaders on this team, guys that are getting NIL deals, stuff like that? You got guys on watch lists all over the place. You're picked to finish high in the conference. Have you seen your players kind of grow into that to where maybe you don't have to tell them, don't eat the cheese, they're not eating it, or is there going to be another re-emphasis on that with everything coming your way right now?
Well, I do it almost through sarcasm on Twitter. I even make fun of my own self. There's a few things been said about me that have been extremely nice, and I even, poke fun at myself. It's just a reminder that, and I'm not trying to be negative towards the people that pick that stuff. I'm very grateful. Without media and without, no one cares about us. So y'all have a huge part in us. So it's fun to buy those magazines and talk about that stuff. But the very people that picked us last year are now picking us second. We already showed they don't really know what they're doing when they're picking. So we shouldn't put too much credit into all that stuff, right? So that's one angle. And the other angle of that is just the very part of, if you get so full of yourself and you really believe all that stuff, are you still going to work as hard as you did last year? And you're going to hear me say over and over and over again this year, as the expectations rise, our culture has to match it. And with these super seniors coming back, with our single-digit guys, our leadership council, they've got to buy into that. And if they buy into that, we'll be just fine. If they don't, we'll see.